I'm going to talk about debt, and it's quite an interesting topic, especially in Europe or developed world where debt is quite the norm more than the exception. Of late, I've taken interest in a group of, a category of people called men. And before I actually talk about debt, I want to highlight a few things about men, because debt and men seem to be related. Increasingly, men are actually earning more than they used to. And those at the top are really earning much more than they used to. That's number one. Number two, men don't like financial advisors. So they don't like financial advisors. They don't want to be advised about how and when to use their money and where to deposit it because of shame, more because of shame and ego. Number three, men overestimate how much they have saved for retirement. So if you ask them how much they've saved for retirement, they'll tell you a few millions, which are not there. So it is important that we put that together. Then also, men have the highest category of unsecured debt. Unsecured debt and men seem to be walking in the same direction and have been walking in the same direction for a long time. As well, men are prone to getting addicted to gambling. Because again, in order to account for that delta, they then resort to gambling as a way to actually close up the gap. Then also, men are increasingly facing entrepreneurship pressure. They need to then make it, they need to find a way to close that gap is through entrepreneurship. And so they are likely to take on more risk. But lastly, I also found out that very few men above 40 have two friends. Yeah. You're very lucky if you have 5. But two, very few can even name 2 friends. So, which makes the topic today very interesting, and so that's why I need to dive into the topic like now. Debt. So, when we talk about debt, I want us to look at a few definitions by people I respect, and a few words of wisdom by a gentleman called Timothy Keller. Please. Timothy Keller defines wisdom as the competence in navigating issues of life where there is no clear moral direction, and you can't be sure whether to marry or not to marry, whether to go back to Uganda or stay here, whether to remain single or get married or go back to school, or you think you've studied enough. And that's where wisdom really comes in. Number 2, he also talks about, Mike Murdoch says that wisdom is the ability to recognize difference. If you can tell the difference, then you're wise. Can you tell a difference between good and bad? And even good that is characterized as bad, but also bad characterized as good, packaged in different packages. Can we be able to really tell the difference? But I also like this, which says that wisdom is also the scriptural solution to a problem. So we can argue and speak so much English, but at the end of the day, what will count is what is the scriptural solution to a problem. Again, I like Mike Murdoch because he then says that we rise and fall by our definition of a thing. So how you define a thing can kill you or save you, right? Next slide, please. So I wouldn't stand here and demonize debt. There are good things about debt, which I want us to honor and acknowledge. Number one, debt empowers you. All of a sudden, you feel you have a chance to get things right. Now, the thing I really wanted to do, to open a company, I have failed for the last 40 years to open a company. Now, I really can come right. I've lied to my wife for a long time how I'm going to build. Now, finally, I'm going to build. So, debt helps you bridge that gap. Number two, confidence. Now I can say, yes, tomorrow we shall buy that piece of land. Tomorrow we shall start building. Tell the man to put the cement. To tell whatever it is. That confidence, you cannot underestimate that. Number three, you've done so much bad that debt gives you a chance to wash your sins away. You know, for instance, if you're in a home situation, your wife has been asking you for a new sofa for 16 years, and the old sofas you came with are still the ones you're using. So debt gives you a chance to actually start all over. Number four, it gives you relief. Now you can breathe. Now the stress is over. Now the nagging is gone. So there's a lot of benefit in actually getting debt. Next slide, please. So, having said that, there are a few questions that I think we should ponder on. Number one, how long have you been in debt? People do not know how long they've been in debt. Okay? And typically, many people have lived in debt longer than they had actually budgeted to be in debt. So let's just answer truthfully to ourselves. Not even tell your neighbor, but to yourself. How long have you been in debt? Number two, how much debt do you currently have? 73% of people do not know how much debt they are in. So we're not even talking about paying it, but how much debt do you have? Even the commitments you've made that you've not fulfilled is still a debt. So list everything with the banks, list every promise you've made that you haven't fulfilled, because it too is a debt. Number three, how much interest did you pay last year? How much interest did you pay last year? It's one thing to say, I paid an installment of £500 per month, but it's another to know what portion of interest you actually paid. There's something called an amortization table that actually will show you how much interest you pay out of the installment that you actually do. In many cases, especially if the loan is young, about 90% of that goes into interest. Number four, when do you plan to be debt-free? Because, okay, fine. No judgment, you've been in debt. Debt has helped you do A, B, C, D, E. Fine, all that is true and all that we thank you for. But when do you plan to get out of debt? Now, many people don't even... Now, what makes even the whole thing complicated? One, you don't know how indebted you are, right? Two, you don't have a plan when you'll get out of debt. Now, that complicates everything. Next slide, please. That complicates even what would have been easier. Now, then let's go to this slide. Effects of debt. If you're in debt, you'll be a liar. Inevitably, you will tell lies. So when are you getting out of debt? This year. You know it very well. You have been promising yourself this year for the last 17 years, and that hasn't happened. Number two, you become superstitious. Okay? Superstitious, you think somehow as you walk along London Road, you'll pick £10,000 and be able to pay that debt off. That won't happen. That's superstition. Number three, moral risk. You become a very big moral risk. Why? Because all your boundaries of morality will be blown away. Yeah, when you have debt. Just when you think you're very faithful, when you have debt, you have a problem. You cannot be a blessing to others. In the church situation, many times the pastor will preach, you get convicted, but debt puts you down to where you are. reduces you now to reality. You say, okay, I wanted to pledge £1,000, but where will it come from, honestly? So I will not contribute. I will not pledge. Then you become cynical. The people who are rich are thieves. They must be having witchcraft. They must have gone down to the lake and that kind of thing. Because a normal person, should do A, B, C, D. Then, then any other, you can fill in any other, a combination of the above. A combination of those. Next slide, please. So those are effects of debt. Now, this is why we need courage. Because to really get out of debt and stay out of debt, by the way, getting out of debt is easy. Staying out of debt is a whole different animal. Especially if you've been in debt, say, 17 years. Now, your lifestyle has adjusted to debt. And so, on the 18th year, you may face demons you have never faced for the last so many years. So, this is the thing. Courage is really needed. You really need to determine that you're done with debt. And not out of anger, but out of a deep conviction. Knowing and saying, you know what, I'm done with debt. It's not simply waking up and swearing and saying, today I'm done. It is a calculated move, knowing how far you've come from, knowing your character and personality, knowing your stage of life. Because I wouldn't advise you to be getting into debt when you're 45, for instance, or when you're 55, and getting new debt. Really, that wouldn't be wisdom. Then also, there is fear. Fear is there. Yeah, but I like what one gentleman said. He said, fear is wetting your pants, which is okay. But courage is doing it with wet pants. So, wet pants shouldn't disqualify you. But the courage is when you do it with wet pants. So the fact that you wet your pants, don't worry about it. So my question is, do you have the courage, the conviction, the commitment to start this journey? To start this journey. And you have it really. Next slide, please. Courage is what is needed. And each one of us needs a dose of courage. Do you have courage? And in what doses of courage, what dose of courage do you have? Sometimes people will say, I'm in debt because I'm poor. You don't know my situation. But instead, I tell you that actually, it's the other. You're poor because you're in debt. And this is not my own research. It has been researched. Next slide, please. There's a gentleman. He's called Kent Newburn. He said, debt, not poverty, is the greatest enemy of financial well-being. And it is the cause of poverty. So if you thought because you're poor, that's why you're in debt. No, it is the other way around. Then there are poor people who are happy. Not so the ones in debt. When you're in debt, you can kiss happiness goodbye. Because whenever you get a call from the one demanding you money, happiness goes through the window. And so you can never look at the person you borrowed from the same way again. So happiness and you are part ways. Debt is the money for the poor. Then I say this, it defines your future before you have had a chance to decide what you will do with it. Now, this was a quote by John Oliver, and I say this is not Oliver Ngoma. It is a different John Oliver, so do not confuse him with Oliver Ngoma. Please, next slide. There is a rule of 72, which I want to introduce to you, if you don't know it. And when I found this, it blew my mind, and I decided to part ways with debt. So this is the thing, that if you want to know how long it will take your money to double, all you have to do is get 72 and divide it by the interest rate. Either the interest rate you're earning or the interest rate you're paying. So in this example, I said, look, if you're paying 12%, let's say this time you're not paying, paying 12% per annum, which I believe is good in our situation, then that means that in 72 divided by 12, which is 8, in 8 years you'll have doubled the money. So if you had a debt of 10,000 pounds, in 8 years you have actually paid 20,000 pounds. Now it is not linear; it gets worse, and that's why we will move to the next. And this is the thing. This is the thing. When I just hold on here, did you see? Did you receive? And this is my question. That in 8 years, the lender has recouped what they gave you. And what is demanded from you are papers. And they continue getting money on money. And that's the good thing about compounding. And that's the good thing with waiting and waiting it out. But we'll see. Let's see the next slide. Typically, we should be able to save 10% of the money that we earn to really get out of debt. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Next slide, please. Now, remember, we said with the rule of 72, at 12%, it will take 8 years for the money to double. So you borrow 10,000 pounds, that means in 8 years, you've paid 20,000 pounds. Okay? Now, what the rule of 114 says that this is the amount of time it will take the money to triple. So using the same example at 12%, that means it takes 9.5 years for the money to triple. So that means in 9.5 years, you've actually paid 30,000 pounds. Now, it gets better, or I would say worse, because from the rule of 72, it was taking us 8. But now, it changes. Because it's interest upon interest. It gets actually worse. Okay? Now, my question to you here is this. If you look at the interest you've been paying and compare it with the rent that you've been paying, which is higher? Remember, I gave you homework. Please look at the interest you've been paying. And you may find that what you've paid in interest could have actually bought a house. Yeah. What you've paid as interest and bought actually several houses. When we look at the rule of 114, these are 3. That means you were capable of buying the house and buying another house and another house. Yeah. So let's look at the next slide. The rule of 70. Now, the rule of 70 shows you how long it takes for the power of money to reduce to half what it was. In other words, the 10 pounds that is today, how long will it take to have the purchasing power of 5 pounds? Okay? And it takes some time. Now, so what we do, we get 70 and divide it by the rate of inflation. In this case, I said, let's take 5 years, for instance. 70 divided by 5 years, that means in 14 years, 10 pounds will be worth what 5 pounds is today. Now, what does this therefore mean? That the longer you take to stay in debt, the longer it will take for you to actually become wealthy. Why? In 14 years in this case, what you thought you'd be maybe paying £1,000 per month, you now need £2,000. And if you've been paying that for 14 years, it becomes very hard for you to get £2,000 to get the power of £1,000 right now. That means that the 1,000 in 14 years will have the purchasing power of 500. Your journey to wealth becomes longer and harder, and when you are older. I wish you were younger, but now you're older, and the purchasing power is actually lower. And that also gets worse. Next slide, please. So the money loses its value and loses its purchasing power like it had earlier on. Now, interest on debt grows without rain. It doesn't need, next slide. So it doesn't depend on the weather. There, there are 7 incomes that a wealthy person should have. So I want to give you a good side, that is wealth. And this is the good side. That you need earned income. That's the salary you get. All right? Number 2, you need profit income. That means we do a transaction, okay? We bought something at £5,000, sold it at £7,000. We got 2,000, shared it, me and you. Each one took away £1,000. You need that. Number 3, you need dividend income, where you open a company, run it for a year, balance the books, and then say, oh, this is what it belongs to you. Then you need interest income. Interest income is when you lend, and I'm going to come back to this shortly. You need rental income. Someone said that real estate is the estate that is real. I will not belabor that. Royalty income, write books, sing songs, and you'll get some, if you can sing. But like the rest of us who are chased from the choir, then capital gains income. Yeah, I was asked to leave the choir for the good of the choir. Yeah, but usually I say, when I sing vertically. Only God knows what I sing about. Next slide, please. The rest of you can criticize me, but I don't care. Now, there are vehicles you need, and I don't mean vehicles literally, but if you're going to go on a journey, there is a vehicle that will help you reach there. And so, out of those 7 I've streamed, you need to choose which vehicle. The danger is in stressing a vehicle to take you faster than it can. Rental income will give you a very low return, for instance, compared to profit income. So do not stress rental to give you the return of profit income or dividend income. Now, you also must weigh the age and stage of life you are at. If you are 60 or 70 or 80, then you wouldn't go into maybe profit or interest. You may not have the heart and the risk appetite to actually withstand all that. You may lose and then die. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, this is the most important slide of my presentation. And this is how I want to explain it. There are only 4 ways you can use your money for. Okay? 1, you can spend it, you can donate it, or you can save it, or invest it. So, there are 4. Spend, donate, save, and invest. Now, only one of these will give you a return, and that is invest. Only investment. Now, when you look at investment, there are 2 ways you can invest. Either ownership or lending. All right? And each one of those has either an active or a passive side. And let me break it down slowly so that we all flow very well, and this is the secret. Let's look at investment, and let's look at the lending arm. You can either passively lend or actively lend, right? You can either passively lend or actively lend. Now, when it comes to ownership, you can either passively own or actively own. Now, let me break down a few things. When you passively lend, that means, for instance, you've put money on the bank and fixed it. You've passively lent to the bank. And the returns are really low. But you can actively lend, where you say, James, I'm going to lend you my £5,000. How much will you return? Now, those are options. Then you can passively own, where you say, I own part of maybe Barclays Bank, and so you put in some money. But you can also actively own, where you buy real estate or own a business. Now, those are the 4 ways you can actually become wealthy. Now, the trick is here, and this is the gist. All the wealth is made through lending and owning. And all the liabilities are therefore this side. And this is the opposite, where you borrow or when you lease. All the money is the other side, when you own or lend. When you own or lend, you get money. There is no money this side, where you're the one either leasing or renting. That's why it's important. Next slide, please. And the next one. That is why passive lending, I've already explained that. Passive ownership, next slide. Again, next slide, please. Now, this is where I bring in the Bible. In Deuteronomy 28:18 says that the Lord will open up to you his good treasure, the heavens to give you the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. God knew which side of the equation brings you money. It is through lending, not borrowing. Number 2, Joshua 1:3. Every place that your sole of your foot will tread on, I have given to you. It's good for you to own. Yeah. And not lease or rent. That's the secret. And if you go back, just go back to the other slide. So if we get money, spend, donate, save, invest, get the portion of investment, lend or own, then wealth will come our way. What we've been sold to is what I'm going to show you. Next slide, please, and the next one. Now, this is what has been sold to us. I'm going to explain. This is the ideal thing, that every business at scale is actually a bank. And this is the goal and mission of every business. Number 1, that every business should hold and manage large cash reserves, like a bank does. Every business should lend, should have capacity to lend. Number 3, every business should be able to collect interest or fees. Right? Number 4, control payment terms. Say, no, I will not give you 30 days, I'll give you 15 days. Every business should have property. And my question is, give yourselves marks out of 10. How do you score? Next slide. And this is the lie we've been sold, that every business should have an overdraft, which is contrary to what I'm saying, that every business should have large cash reserves. The likes of Amazon and Microsoft hold large cash reserves. For what? Lend money. Then we've been told, no, we should borrow to grow. That's a lie we've been sold. Number 2, we've been told this thing called EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest. Who told you I must pay interest? You get it? I should not be the one paying interest. But they subconsciously make you pay interest, whether you want it or not. Ask for favorable terms. Who told you we're supposed to ask for? We should be giving terms. We should be the ones dictating the terms. Then we also have to be told, no, you shouldn't have property because it frees up working capital. Who's working capital? Who said? Next slide. Now, this is the expectation that we have expectations of active investment. Next slide. But there is hope that from what we've studied and from what we've learned, we can actually decide what passive income we should get, what passive investment we should make, so that we change that story if we are in business. Next slide, please. So a few things I would recommend as I close. One, live below your means. That's an anchor habit. There's a gentleman called Charles Duhigg who wrote a book, The Power of Habit. You should read it. Number two, pay your future self first. Your future self is the money you love yourself that you actually save. If you don't save, you don't love yourself. Now, this is your future self. Pay down high interest debt. Number four, have an emergency fund, because why? The emergencies do happen. Number five, set clear financial goals. What do you want to buy? A Raum, an Ipsam, or a Hero bicycle? Girl Hero. Learn continuously. Ignorance compounds, right? But also knowledge compounds, right? Number seven, invest wisely. And number eight, track your wealth regularly. Your wealth should be able to improve 10% minimum per annum. So how will you know you're on the right track if you're not tracking it? Next slide, please. Pay cash for luxuries. If you can't buy two, don't buy one. If you can't buy two with cash, don't swipe for two. Okay? Then, number 9.5, revise, rinse, and repeat in a basin. In Africa, we use basins to wash, not a washing machine. So, rinse, repeat, and wash. Now, my question to you is, are you walking, are you standing, or running? Next slide. If you're in a pit, stop digging. Right? Stop digging. Number two, if you can put together all your debt, then have it together, then consolidate it, well and good. Number three, restructure or negotiate or ask for forgiveness. Sometimes the way around is, look, I won't be able to pay you, please release me. Number four, increase income. Go to school, work harder, get a second job, a third job, so that you actually get out. Sell some assets. Some things you've bought, you have never used. I have a boot sell. You can use the debt snowball method, where you are actually depositing a fixed amount regularly to pay down your debt. Number seven, which I found interesting, change your friends. Because you won't have the same friends getting out of debt like you had getting into debt. Those friends are really a big determinant of where you'll be 10 years from now. Last slide, I think. Hasta la próxima. This is just the beginning, right? If you declare that today is the beginning, then it will truly be the beginning of your journey getting out of debt. And I want you to believe that it is possible to get out of debt. And secondly, I want you to believe that it is possible to stay out of debt. And then your children and your grandchildren will thank you because their grandfather stayed out of debt. Thank you so much. And
wow, come on, put your hands together, people. Thank you so much. We have kind of run out of time, but that was too much wisdom for 40 minutes. So for a lot of us, we're going to need to digest. We're going to need to take this further. I'm living proof that you can come out of debt, and that debt is very uncomfortable. And you feel like a prisoner. You are a prisoner while you're in debt. But I know that we can tell our story one time, but there was a time for, I think it was almost 10 years, when the best balance we ever saw in our bank account was 0. I am a testimony that you can do that. You can come out of it and have a bank balance that testifies. Amen. But just a couple of things. For those of you that are online, thank you so much for being with us. In the locations, you may have like maybe 5 minutes to just catch up and do questions. Please do that. But remember, Director Grace has a book. And if you need a copy of the book, speak to me or speak to Rose, and we will sort you out. Thank you for being with us today. In the house, we will only have like a minute or two for a few questions. There is a book. Rose is going to show it to you in a minute. There you are. Just wave it at them. Thank you. Yeah, so the book, you can get yourself a copy today. If you need to get a copy, speak to Rose. But I don't know, Peter, if we've got a second mic. We do, okay.
So when you're in, I guess, in a family household, like a couple, how do you recommend dealing with debt? Because I've heard different examples. For example, one income goes to saving and all that stuff, and then the other income goes to managing debt. But I think that's just one thing that came to me now. I was just thinking, okay, how does it work when it comes to family, or just specifically a couple and dealing with debt?
Can I add on to that
Sure.
question? The other thing is there are young people who are not married yet, and some people get married and discover on day 3 that actually husband is steeped in debt. So what do you do? Is his debt his debt? Is it our debt?
That's a very interesting question. I was couples don't find out until month 10 that the other person is in debt. So when you find someone today, it's until month 10 that you'll get the first sign that the person is in debt. Because debt is in such a way that we hide it. So no one will come on the first date and say, hey, by the way, I'm in debt. I totaled up everything, it's 37,000. You run, okay? So both sides conceal debt until month 10, okay? Which is actually not good. But I was listening to a podcast by Kevin O'Leary, in which he said that you should be able to talk about debt on the second date.
Wow.
Yeah. As in, let's clear this. Are you in debt? Yes, no. And how much? So that you figure out, is it our debt or it's your debt, before we complicate matters. Because you see, debt will subtract from the temperature of the relationship, whether you want it or not. It's one thing for you to get a payment of £500 and then 490 goes to pay debt. When I was thinking, this £500 will help us fix A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. Now, whether you agree and say one income goes to pay debt and then we survive on one income, that's the thing that you need to sort out way earlier. And then the most important thing is to paint a picture of a future that you actually want. Very few couples can even name a future that they both look forward to. So when you ask a couple, what is the one thing you both look forward to, and they can't name? So I think you should both of you agree on a future you look forward to and say, look, these are the 6 things we look forward to in the next maybe 1 year or 2 months, whatever it is. Then put debt among those things, then you'll be good. I think it's the point of agreement in the first place that will yield you, because where 2 or 3 agree, then there's power there. Yeah. So without the point of agreement, then you'll have problems. Yeah.
Just Rose is the last one.
Sure.
Pastor Grace has talked about young people. We have currently in this country where they're giving young people going to university student loans. And unfortunately, a lot of parents within our community, even the young people, don't realize that that's actually debt. They're starting their future in debt. Can you please speak into their lives? Can you encourage them to actually sit down, young men and young women, to sit down and work out how much debt they're in? before they start even employment. Yeah.
The people, thank you so much for that question. The people who sell debt don't say, ho, 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 here comes debt. Right? No. They are also wise. They will baptize it so many different names. A facility. For instance, they call it a facility in the bank. A facility, who told you it's a facility? Just call it a loan. A facilitating who? They don't even say who it is. I think it's facilitating the what? The bank. But this is the point. That I think 7 out of 10 jobs existing today will be out in the next 10 years. That's the research. So it wouldn't be good for you to incur all that debt about an uncertain future. Right now, it should be a conversation of what you can manage and how you can manage more realistically. Otherwise, you will get very unhappy people who are graduating and very unhappy couples who are getting together, because you'll be getting two highly stressed people together and highly indebted. And then their future will be very bleak, and their children's future will be very bleak, because there will be no chance that their children's children will be blessed, because a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children, and so there will be no chance of leaving them any inheritance. And in any case, that won't be righteousness. Like I said in the first slide, it was about wisdom. Wisdom is knowing and being able to tell the difference. If you can't tell the difference and smell this thing that this is an animal that will come and eat me, then you're not being wise. And then finding a scriptural solution to a problem is wisdom. Yes. And we will rise and fall by our definitions. So let's not call this assistance. This is not assistance in any way. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.